How's it going, man?
It's good. It's getting kind of dark at the moment here in Utah. I've just arrived in Utah, but
why don't you set the scene for us?
Okay, well, I've been driving. I left Las Vegas and I went through the Nevada desert through some massive storms. It was kind of interesting because you could see the storms off in the distance, and drove through them trying to play cat and mouse, not get rained on too much.
That's interesting.
Yeah, kind of went over what's that place, Arizona for a bit, and now I'm in Utah, and I'm busy looking for my patron's house where I'm going to go and stay. Yeah.
Nice.
But it's been pretty fantastic. However, there's something I've been noticing a lot while I'm here in America, and I thought we should talk about it, and that is drug abuse.
Okay. Drug abuse in, like, you've seen people using drugs?
I've seen the aftermath. I mean...
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, and that's interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up because here in China there's actually a massive drug problem as well, and it's something that China's never really dealt with before. And actually I'm in an area where there's a narcotics office where they have like a rehabilitation center, which is fairly new to China. So what have you seen over in the US?
Well, that's the thing. Like in China you don't really see drug users hanging around, you know it exists.
Sure.
But here in America, I'm seeing a lot of people sort of our age, they look able-bodied and they look like normal folk, but obviously they're kind of sitting on the side of the road begging, and you can see that they're affected by drugs. You can tell when a person's been taking drugs. They look kind of wasted, and frail and
I see what you mean.
Scabby and what have you,
Right. Yeah, the thing about China actually is that from 1990 until 2003, in 1990 there was only like 8,000 drug-related arrests, and then in 2003 there was like 30,000. So it's grown quite significantly here in China. But the problem is because there is no real drug education. So the issue is that a lot of people don't really understand what drugs are worse than others, etc., etc. And because all these precursor chemicals, especially for pharmaceutical drugs, are actually made here in China, it makes a massive money-making opportunity. And actually, a couple years ago, there was a village called Lufeng, and it's in Guangdong. They found out the entire industry for the village was illicit drugs, right? So there were like grandmothers and grandfathers making meth, basically, and shipping it out to the rest of the world. So it's really caught on, and that's due to the fact that China's got more money now, so people are buying things like drugs. But yeah, the lack of drug education is a massive problem here. So it's interesting to see how money kind of brings in social problems like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's totally the truth. The thing is, over here, I've noticed that there's this, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it's almost like a culture of coddling. You see adverts on the radio, or you hear adverts on the radio, you see on the TV, all these adverts about, oh, do you have an addiction? Do you have a problem? We'll help you out, or, it's probably because of this other pharmaceutical company got you hooked. Let's sue them and get you money. There's this, it's almost as if they're saying, if you want to be a drug addict, that's fine. It's like, if you're a drug addict, it's not your fault, and don't worry about it. We'll sort you out, And you see everywhere, like, help the poor people fighting addiction and all this kind of crap. And to me, it just shows a huge a huge amount of weakness, for lack of a better word. I mean, I don't want to sound like insensitive to people who have problems or anything, but let's be real here. If you're a drug addict, it's because you're after the pleasure of taking drugs. You're trying to escape, just like a horrible alcoholic or whatever. It's just an excuse to have fun, and forget your worries and escape the real world responsibilities.
Right. That's really interesting because it's a complete opposite approach of what you see here. There's a lot of villages that we ride through when you're in China. We ride through these villages together, and you'll see these big propaganda signs that say, like, let's stamp out drugs, right? but they'll
Yeah.
have like soldiers with guns pointed, and like they'll have these massive seizures and broadcast them on the news where they burn like 400 tons of drugs and stuff, and then they execute the dealers and all this kind of stuff. It's totally the opposite of this coddling approach, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. But I mean, China's always had a chip on its shoulder ever since the Opium Wars, you know, when it comes to drugs.
Sure.
They're kind of, it's bad news. So if you're caught with too many drugs, they're going to execute you, you know, or they're going to put you in jail
Yeah.
for small amounts. So they've got a no-nonsense attitude towards drugs, which I kind of appreciate, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand why exactly. It's obviously down to the Opium Wars, but there's an issue because obviously they didn't really have a problem with drugs before, like I'm going to say in recent history, but recently, because it's taken off so much, we've had an issue with the enforcement of these actual laws. And there's actually this article that I think the New York Times did, and they were talking about why there's so many Nigerian and Chinese drug dealers up in Beijing, like in Sanlitun, you know, that area.
Yeah.
Why do they go unchecked? And the reason is that China has always, you know, under communist China, has always run under KPIs or quotas, right? And it works exactly the same for motorcycles. So they don't care that motorcycles are illegal because it's not quota time. But when quota time comes, they start cracking down like crazy, right? Because they get their bonuses from their boss. So what happens is apparently the cops up there will allow a few drug dealers to like kind of be free. And then when it's crackdown time, they'll pay them money to get all the names of the dealers that they want to crack down on. So it's a really interesting approach to that, and it's, you know, it's a growing problem now, especially with all the meth and heroin and stuff in the area. And it's honestly like me and you will go out for barbecue at night here where I live in Huizhou. And remember, there's that grandmother that collects cans and bottles. It looks innocent enough, like a kind of like a poor old grandmother, but she also sells meth. You know, she uses like an empty little bubble container and sells meth to people. She's probably like 80 years old, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I just want to get back to what I've been seeing here, and it sucks, dude. Like, I absolutely love America. I think it's an amazing place, and you know, the people here are so friendly and awesome and everything. But to see these people that are just literally wasting their lives away, and because it's being accepted, you just see them. If you just need to go to any shady kind of part of town, and you'll see these like drug addicts, and they come up to you and they're like, "Hey man, can you spare $1 for a taco?" Or, you know, "Hey man, you know, I need to catch a bus. You know, can you give me $1 or $2? You got any spare change?" You know, that kind of thing. And you just see that it's terrible. And then you've also got women as well, and they're very vulnerable when they're out on the street like that too. You know, and it's kind of scummy. You know?
I wanted to keep opinions out of it, but I have a lot more sympathy for drug use here in China compared to America, to be honest, because honestly, like, life can be pretty grim in the countryside out here, especially for like some older people. And I guess I sympathize with their kind of lack of meaning in life or being, to where they could use drugs. Whereas in America, like, life is pretty comfy, life is pretty good. And if you're begging, you know, there's social programs to help you. If you're begging for taco money, I call bullshit on that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the money's not going to go to tacos anyway, right?
Right.
Because if it was, I'll buy you a taco, you know?
Maybe that's the street name for crack right now. Yo man, give me some of that taco.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that next time one of those guys comes up to me, I'll be like, "Hey man, yeah, I'll buy you a taco." We'll see what he says.
And you actually go do it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I wanted to ask you one more thing, actually. Because of this, in China, dupian, the word dupian or drugs, covers every single drug. And the problem is with the lack of drug education, like I said, nobody really knows what drug is worse than the others. And I was at a point where when I was up in Inner Mongolia, a lot of my friends would be like, "Hey, do you want to do some ice?" That's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, absolutely not." Like, they're asking me if I want to do meth. To them, that was just as bad as marijuana, right? And
yeah, that's terrible.
The problem is if you talk about drugs here, people are like, "Wow, I can't believe they're legalizing marijuana across the world, especially in America. I can't believe they're doing that, because that's a drug, and drugs kill you, and you'll get addicted." And even my students today still believe that if you smoke marijuana, you like will go crazy and you'll kill yourself.
Yeah, but that's absolute nonsense. I mean, that's the thing, though. They've just legalized marijuana in a whole bunch of states here in America due to the elections. Right. And I've been talking to people, a lot of the subscribers I've been staying with I'm pulling into a gas station, by the way, so I can just stop and talk to you for a minute, because it's getting dark and you can't see anything anyway.
Okay.
A lot of the subscribers I've been staying with, I mean, I've stayed with conservative and liberals and, all that, and they all seem to have a pretty positive outlook on this whole legalization of marijuana thing. They seem to think that it's a good thing. I mean, just like legalizing alcohol, you will get people that abuse it, but at least you can kind of control it. And other than the fact that it definitely has been proven to affect young developing minds, like it will mess with your brain and stuff. If you're a responsible adult and you use it correctly, then why not, but it's not freaking meth.
Right. I know, but that's the issue here, is that nobody seems to make that distinction, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Before I finish, I just wanted to say, what the popular drugs here are. It's mostly meth, ketamine, heroin, and MDMA, and that's pretty much what people do. You don't see a whole lot of marijuana, whereas in America, marijuana would be considered probably the most popular drug.
Yeah, I'd say so. The people that have been really strung out over here, the drug addicts, it's definitely meth, dude. I can tell. They've all got rotten teeth and that kind of stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's pretty
That's
awesome.
A shame.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's it.
Maybe China should stop sending all the chemicals over for producing it. Anyway, what were you saying?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess that's it for this episode. It's kind of an interesting one. I think this is probably the first time ever anyone's done an international vlog.
I was just going to say that I think this is like groundbreaking stuff here on YouTube, guys, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. So this was C-Milk here in Guangdong, China, today on this lovely day. It's about 15 degrees, and Winston all the way over there in Utah.
Yeah, it's currently 8 degrees Celsius over here. It's pretty freaking cold for me. But yeah, anything you want to say to our subscribers before we sign off?
Yeah, I want to say I wish you the best on the rest of your trip, man, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. And whether you do drugs or you don't do drugs, I hope that you like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, and whether or not you're a useless waste of space asking for taco money or a productive, wonderful human being, either way, I don't mind. And all the way from Utah in America, in the evening, stay awesome.
When I close my eyes, I can almost sing it. When I take a breath, you fill up my life.